So one of the hardest parts about having these kind of conversations about MAGA every day is the blatant, glaring double standards that they have. It's got to the point where I truly don't know what MAGA even believes in anymore because they just jump through the hoops of the mental gymnastics by the minute. I mean, the days won't even end anymore till they've changed their position and they're somewhere else. I'm a big boxing fan. I make a lot of boxing analogies, but I was watching a documentary one time about Muhammad Ali, and the one fighter that Ali could never time was a guy named Ken Norton. Wasn't Joe Frazier, wasn't George Foreman, wasn't any of the more Sonny Liston, wasn't the more popular people that he faced off against. It was a guy named Ken Norton. Angelo Dundee said they sat and studied hours of film of Ken Norton trying to time him to see what kind of combinations he threw. They couldn't time him. And Dundee was a genius. He could not figure out how to time him to tell Ali how to time him, and Ali couldn't figure it out. And I've watched all three fights, and even though Ali won two of them by decision, I still think they're debatable. I don't know if Muhammad Ali ever actually beat Ken Norton clean because he was just a very odd boxer with an odd style, and you couldn't time him. You could never corner him. And that's how it feels with MAGA. I can never corner them, and I can never time them, and I don't know what's coming next because they change on a dime. And because they have such double standards and they're so glaring that it's impossible to have a reasonable conversation or an argument with people like that. For years, we heard them sit and preach about Hunter Biden. That's all we heard. They made that their very existence. Hunter Biden. The American people deserves to know all about Hunter Biden. They deserve to know what was in his laptop. They deserve to know every business dealing that he's ever done. They deserve to know if he's purchased a firearm, if he's paid his taxes. And they just went on and on and on. The American people deserve to know. Well, people like us would sit back and go, well, hold on a minute. You know, he's in no position of power. He's not in his father's cabinet. What's it matter? He's a private citizen. Who cares? Yeah, but the American people deserve. That's President's son, man. You can't just let stuff like that go on. Well, we'd point over to Jared Kushner, crickets. They wouldn't say a word about any of that. And we sit there and watch them talk about Hunter Biden day in and day out. And they finally pin him down because he checked a box on a gun form. And they were like, well, he was on drugs. And he checked that box and said he wouldn't. And I'm like, really? You really going to have that conversation here? All us hillbillies in Tennessee, we're going to have that conversation? Really, you're gonna cast stones at the dude over that because they're the same people that said those gun forms was unconstitutional, that those gun forms was infringing upon their right to protect themselves. And when I would say there should be stricter background checks and there should be more hoops for people to jump through. Oh no, man, that's unconstitutional to ask somebody that. I shouldn't have to tell them that, but Hunter Biden has to tell them that. Again, it's that double standard. They get Hunter Biden on taxes, and they're like, yeah, so you got to do that. You got to pay your taxes, buddy. And I'm like, Trump stood up there and said that he didn't pay his taxes, and it was smart not to. He said that made him smart. Again, it's just those blatant, glaring double standards. But the one I always go back to is the one they just kept saying, the American people deserve to know. The American people deserve to know everything that Hunter Biden's ever done in his life. And they sit there and they show nude photos of the guy. They drug him through the mud, trying their best to demonize him, trying their best to demonize Joe Biden as the worst parent ever. They took a moment where Joe Biden tried to comfort him in rehab and somehow tried to make Biden the villain in that. And then out comes the Matt Gaetz report, and all those standards they set for themselves, all those beliefs they had, straight down the toilet. Done. The American people don't need to know that. We need to keep that suppressed from them. Mike Johnson went out of his way to keep that hidden. And you're like, but wait a minute. Now, Matt Gaetz was in a position of power. And Matt Gaetz was nominated to be Attorney General. Don't the American people deserve to know? Well, this is clearly a political hit job. This is clearly them trying to stop Trump's cabinet picks. Yeah, but don't the American people deserve to know? That's what makes this so hard to sit here day in and day out and have these conversations, because the double standards are so glaring and because you can never time them in the argument. And you can't win an argument with somebody who has already declared themselves the winner and are going to say they're the winner regardless of what facts or evidence comes out. You're never going to beat that person. You're never going to pin them down. I talk to so many of my friends every day, and we talk about when is the moment going to be where we can say, I told you so, and they go, okay, you got me. It ain't coming. It's not coming because they are not capable of having that moment of reality. We've all had to face it in our lives. We've all faced up to that. We've all owned it when we got it wrong. We've all accepted defeat. But they've never been able to. They've never been able to. We never got to flex for 1 minute. We never got to celebrate for 1 minute when Joe Biden won in 2020 because they were too busy saying, no, he did not. He didn't win. You can't trust the elections. Them machines are rigged. Everything's rigged. The whole world is rigged against me. And then Trump wins. Kamala concedes 5 minutes later. And then it's like, yep, we got the best elections in the world. Safest elections ever. And if I were to question the election at all, then I would be told that, oh, no, you can't do that. See there you guys go again, just like 2016, back when Hillary wouldn't concede. Hillary never conceded that either. Yes, she did. Man, she went around saying it was stolen for years. Yeah, but she didn't orchestrate, a riot, on the nation's capital. Yeah, but she went around. You can't win. You're not going to win that argument. It's impossible. And this Matt Gaetz, Hunter Biden thing to me is the best example I can show of just that blatant hypocrisy. This guy was in Congress and they wanted this guy to be Attorney General, and look at all the things that was in that report, from statutory rape to drug use. And there's the question of, well, okay, he purchased a firearm. What did he fill out on that paper? What boxes did he check? Oh, now, wait a minute, man. Hold on. That's his business. That's his business. Don't be prying into his business. That's infringing on his rights. If they really believed, and here's where I'm going with this. If they truly believed in what they said, and they truly stood for what they say they stand for, they would have threw Donald Trump under the bus a long time ago, but they definitely would have threw Matt Gaetz completely under the bus. When this evidence comes out against these people, they would own it, and they would say, hey, that's not who we are. We are the morals, and we're the values, and we're the rule of law. They would say all those things, and they would actually live it and stick to it. But instead, we can sit here and trap them in one after another double standard. We can just set the traps, and they walk right into it every time. So as we go forward, people says to me, well, Brando, you're just, you're preaching to the choir. We know that. How do we change it? Well, I believe we continue, as tough as it is, we continue to have this conversation. Not that we're going to win over the most extreme cultists. That probably is never going to happen. But what is going to happen is reasonable people are going to start to feel these things, and reasonable people are going to start to look around, and they're going to at least look and say, well, we did have some people trying to tell us. And if nothing else, I want people to understand one thing. If nothing else, this platform will stand as a testament that Tennessee Brando didn't buy into the bullshit and that he saw through the double standards. And 50, 60 years from now, long after I'm dead and gone, and my grandkids and great-grandkids are all standing around talking about old Papaw, it'll be Papaw didn't buy into that bullshit. Because I went back and I looked into my family. I found out that the family on my dad's side actually fought for the Union. And, I say to myself, not every Southerner had to have been happy with the decision to secede. And not everyone in 1930s Germany was behind that cult of personality either. But they didn't have platforms they could use their voices on. They weren't able to speak out like we are today. So that's what this is for me. It's a matter of I didn't buy into it. And somewhere is someone that'll come across a video like this. They may disagree with what I'm saying, but again, we're planting seeds. We're saying to them, look at the double standards. Look how blatant they are. We all see through it. And like I've said in the past, and I'll continue to repeat this talking point, you don't win an argument immediately. No one ever just says, oh, you got me, and they're never going to say that. But the truth will slowly sink in eventually. And even if it never does on those people, you can say you were on the right side of history and you tried to fight the good fight. So I appreciate you guys so much, folks. We're about there. Hell, we may hit 500,000 by the time this video hits YouTube, because I usually set them to come out a few hours in advance. But if you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button. We're about to hit a massive milestone, and I truly appreciate you guys for coming along on this ride with me. And I know it's going to be crazy, but we're going to continue to call it out, and we're going to continue to stand up for the truth. And we're going to continue to point out the hypocrisy and the double standards, because I feel like you have to start somewhere. And by pointing out the blatant, obvious, glaring double standards and realizing they don't stand for anything. They really don't. At the end of the day, they just are people that wants to always win an argument and never accept accountability. That's not us, though. We're not those people. So we'll keep putting the work in, and we will come out of this whole thing eventually on the other side.